Oh, man. Oh, boy. Okay. I got to ask you guys a question. Can you hear me? And can you see me? Just give me a thumbs up, please. Okay. Santang, you say yes. Okay. I'll start looking. Roger, thank you. Okay. Apparently, you guys didn't hear what I said before. Did you? Okay. Because if not, I'm going to have to repeat. Okay. So you guys didn't hear what I talked about before? All right. Well, let me start all over again. I got no problem with it. I'm going to start all over again. Let's do it, guys. Why not? You're my community. Sometimes you just have to do. All right. Let me first share with you, first of all, some housekeeping items here, guys. Just quickly here. I don't know what happened. I really don't know what happened here. So I can see the screen. I can hear. But I wanted to make sure you guys can hear me, and most of you said yes. So okay, once again, let me check my mic. It's working. So once again, so okay, you guys can hear me. Carleon, you gave me thumbs up. That means we're good to go. All right, I'm gonna repeat. Okay, you probably didn't hear what I said earlier. It's not a problem, guys. Let's do it again. So all right, first of all, I said remember to join me on the 30th for my conversation with Professor Anna Melendog. She will be here on the 30th at 9 a.m. Central Standard Time, 10 p.m. Manila time. And I am also working, waiting for the return of Dr. Yan Lian. She will be on our channel here. And you have my word that we will have this conversation with Dr. Yan Lian before I leave to Asia. So I'll make sure of that. So, all right, there are two topics I'm working on. One of them is for tomorrow. So I had to wait and confirm some information. And do not miss the live stream for tomorrow. This one, I'm not going to say much about it right now. Suffice it to say, I'm going to share a picture with you and you can read between the lines. You will know what I'm going to be talking about. And the information that I was waiting on to confirm is whether Russia took place or was involved in this particular aspect I'm going to be talking about. And the answer is yes. So. And the last thing I want to mention in these housekeeping items here, I am working on a specific analysis for you that has to do with 3 countries that they are now considering a nuclear deterrence. In other words, acquiring the bomb. So I'm going to be addressing this for you also this week. I have not decided on the date yet. So, all right, let's get into our topic. We're going to be talking about Malaysia, as I mentioned. I can't believe I talked all this time and nobody, that was nothing there. But anyway, it's not a problem. It's not a problem at all. So we'll be talking about what's taking place in Malaysia, specifically in Kuala Lumpur. And before we delve deeper into this, let's not jump to conclusions, guys. All I'm going to do is I'm going to provide you the facts. I'm going to provide you my own analysis, and you reach your own conclusion based on your understanding and of course, what you know about these events that's taking place. Now, let me start from 2 main opposite views. One of them, it says that the demonstrations were the number of demonstrators were between 300 to 500,000. Okay, this is what the opposition are saying. The opposition is saying. On the other hand, the local government is saying there were about 18,000 demonstrators. So, and again, we're not going to get into these numbers here and there. Suffice it to say, because for us is to understand what led to these particular demonstrations. Now, one thing that should capture your attention regarding these demonstrations is that the former Prime Minister, Mr. Mahathir Mohamad, took part into demonstrations with the opposition. Of course, he also added his voice. As a former prime minister, you tend to carry weight, assuming you have credibility. He added or accusing Mr. Anwar Ibrahim of abusing his possession or power, especially when it comes down to prosecuting his political opponents. I can't confirm this specific aspect, but I can confirm one thing. And the one thing I can confirm based on my knowledge is that Anwar Ibrahim still has not nominated somebody into the judicial system higher up. Makes you just wonder, is this has to do with any investigations of corruptions? Because don't get me wrong, there is massive corruption also in Malaysia. It's not a secret. It's not a. It's been known. So, but we're not here to focus on that one. We're here to focus on what's leading to this specific demonstration. So, like I know you didn't hear me earlier. I said I will be talking about geography and history to put things in perspective for you. So let's start with geography first, and allow me to share the screen with you regarding Malaysia too, because without understanding this history, the geography, so somehow it will not make more sense to you. So suffice it to say, Malaysia is a Southeast Asian nation, and that is, like some other neighbors, located in the northern and eastern hemispheres of the earth. So one thing interesting is that the South China Sea, this is what's interesting about the geographical location of Malaysia, separates Malaysia into two regions, like you are looking at the map. There is the east and there is the west. So when you think about, for example, the west of Malaysia, it is also known as Peninsular Malaysia. Then you have the east of Malaysia. So the Peninsular Malaysia is part of a mainland, Southeast Asia. And that particular west part of the country lies in the southern part of the Malay Peninsula, which, by the way, borders Thailand. And I'm going to be talking about Thailand in this conversation because it's relevant. Excuse me. The states of Sabah and Sarawak, those are located on the northern edge of the Borneo Islands, which, by the way, it forms the eastern Malaysian region. That's the one you're looking at the map on the east side. Okay? And those are also bordered by Brunei and Indonesia. West Malaysia shares its maritime borders with Singapore, Indonesia, and Vietnam, while the eastern part of Malaysia shares its borders with the Philippines and Vietnam. Basically, when you look at the map, the one you are looking at, if you zoom out, you're going to notice that the borders, it's Brunei, Darussalam, Indonesia, and Thailand. That's basically the one that is bordering Malaysia. So let's talk about history. And I'll do a brief history here. I'm going to divide it into three sections briefly here, guys. I'll share the link with you later on. There is the prehistoric era. There is the Indian influence, the colonial influence, and of course, the independence and the formation of Malaysia. Of course, it goes without saying, you cannot talk about the history of Malaysia without talking about the dark side of the US involvements in Malaysia. There is no other way around it. I even had to dig through archives and pull up some information for you regarding this. So let's start first with the prehistoric aspects. And as I said, I'm going to share one image with you. I forgot to upload it, guys. My apologies for this. But I'll share just the image. Then I'll share the link with you. I want you just to see the human skull that was found in the cave. And this early man was in Borneo. That's where it was found. So that is what and I'm going to share the link with you later on. Suffice it to say that archaeologists did the study, and they found that the evidence suggests, based on their, they have to analyze rocks and so forth. So that's what archaeologists do. What this suggests is that human presence in Malaysia dates back to about 40 to 45,000 years ago. And this exactly with the Naya cave sites in Sarawak. And that provided crucial evidence and insights into the presence of a human race back then, some 40 to 45,000 years ago. So Naya caves in Sarawak, I hope one day to visit that part of Malaysia. So is an important prehistoric sites, because that's where those human remains were found and dated back, according to the historical record, to about at least, when they say at least, meaning that it could be even, that's why I put it between 40 and 45. For the record here, they're saying at least 40,000 years ago. And that's what they found, because they found also some tools that were used back then, made out of stone and out of stones. Yeah. And those ones, they found them in the Mansuli or Mansulai Valley. And to those who are either from Malaysia, you know what I'm talking about, which region here. The Mansuli or Mansulai Valley is the one near Lahad Datu in Sabah. So, and that is what they found over there. So then after that, you have to move into the 3rd century. Why is this important? Because that's where the Indian influence played a role into shaping Malaysia. This is why at this time in history, the 3rd century, the Indian traders introduced Buddhism and Hinduism into the locals, which end up doing what? It ended up influencing the language, the culture, and the customs. Yeah. Because right during that time, you're going to have to think about, it was an empire known as, and pardon me if I mispronounce it, known as Srivijaya Empire. To those who are familiar with this, with the history of Malaysia at that time. And this one goes between 7th and 13th century. And this is why the Malay Peninsula at that time fall under the control of this. It was a powerful empire back then, Srivijaya Empire. And guess where it was based? Does anybody know where this empire was based? It's well known in Malaysia as to this famous location. It's on an island. Does anybody know which island? Because they were very, very, very known. I've seen it before in history when I was reading certain aspects of it. Which island in Malaysia? Because it was famous. Let me see if it's... Atomic. Atomic, you got it. You're the first one here I saw. Atomic, you got it. Al-Stalokin, you got it. It was Sumatra, YT Sumatra. That is correct. It was in Sumatra. Listen. And right after this, who came after them? It was the Malacca Sultanate. The Malacca Sultanate rose to prominence for one reason. And what was the reason? And there is a reason why I'm sharing this with you guys. It's because of trade. That's why I always say, when you look at history, most of the powers that emerged to the top, it wasn't about military, it was about economics. So the Sultanate of Malacca rose to prominence because of commerce and trading centers, because it was very, very, very important location at that time. The Sultanate of Malacca did one particular thing regarding religion. It spread this specific religion. Which one? Which religion the Sultanate of Malacca spread at that time during the 15th century? Now remember, the history of the world during that time, because there was something major right came after 15th century, but around that time, which religion? Oh, Al-Stalokin, you got it. You got it. It was Islam. YT, you got it. Islam. Nikki, you got it. It was Islam. You guys got it. You got it, this one. It's very important to understand because that was the 15th century. And right after that, we enter into the colonial era. And once again, I'm going to ask you, because I like you to be part of the conversation, which colonial power, to give you a hint, from Europe, landed first in Malaysia? And that was right at the early years of the 15th century. Does anybody, which European country? It was at that time a major country because of not England, no. Not the Dutch first. I saw it right here. There we go. Li Hong Yip, you got it. It was the Portuguese. It was the Army with Harmony. You got it. It's the Portuguese first. And you need to understand also, because the Portuguese colonization, so the first thing it did, I'm gonna share a map. Just bear with me here, guys, because it's important to understand these dynamics. Otherwise, things won't make sense to you. Now, look at this map here. Look where Indonesia is. Look where Malaysia is. And look what consider what the Portuguese did first in 1511. You know what they did? They captured Malacca. And that is what it was, marking the beginning of the European influence in the region. That is why it's important to understand. Then after them came the Dutch, which, by the way, some of you were right in mentioning that. It's just I was talking about the beginning of the 15th century. So the Dutch came allied with none other than Johor, which eventually took control of Malacca in 1641. Then came the evil empire of Britain. And Britain, of course, you move all the way to the 19th century, because that's when the British sort of established their dominance. And the way they did it, you know how they did that? They consolidate all the Malay states into protectorates, divide and conquer, and eventually forming the federated Malay states. It was by design. Is the same thing they did in Africa, the same thing they tried to do in Latin America, but especially in Africa, and of course West Asia or the Middle East. Then after that came a major developments, and these developments took place between 1942 and 1945, and you all know what happened during that time. And that's when the Japanese occupation occurred. The Japanese occupation of Malay. So if you look at the history of Japan, it did not have a good one in that region, in the entire region. So, and that's with the presence of the Japanese, what it ended up doing, it interrupted the flow of colonialism on part of the Brits. This is what's important about it, because right after that, all this turmoil paved the way for the independence of the Malaysia. Of course, it took a while, because what you started to see is the emergence of the sort of nationalism that was because they wanted independence. They saying themselves. It's exactly what Africa is doing now. I mean, you think about Africa. How many countries are in the African continent? There are so many. Can you imagine if they combine all their powers? The Europeans, the US, the collective West won't be able to do squat. But because the Europeans understand, if you maintain that divide and conquer policy, you will never allow Africans to unite. It's the same thing that happened back then, except for Malaysia, the nationalists push forward. And this is why you had the Federation of Malaya in 1948. 1948 saw the Federation of Malaya was established, but not as an independence, guys. It was established under the British protection. What does it tell you? The British wanted to keep their thumb. It's like what we've done, we're still doing in certain countries like Philippines, like Japan, like Australia, South Korea, Europe, the collective Europe, all of it. That's exactly what happened back then. So fast forward to 1957. I'm sorry. By the way, what year was Malaysia declared independent? Does anybody know? If you happen to. Oh, Noel, thank you so much, man. Truly appreciate your continued support for the channel. I'm very, very grateful to you for that. Thank you so much, Noel. Owl Gothic, you got it. 1957. Lee Kuan Yew, you got it. 1957. That's when in Malaysia declared its independence. It was exactly on August 31st. That's when it was. And of course, at that time, Tengku Abdul Rahman was the first Prime Minister of Malaysia. I'm sorry, guys, I don't have a picture. I just didn't get to that because I had to cover a lot of stuff. It takes me a while to put this together for you guys because I have to spend literally. That's why it takes me a while to. I don't rush into all this. Don't follow crowd because I want to be the first, because I want to have views and all that. This is what concerns me now about what is becoming of YouTube. Everybody's running after the views and all that with no substance of the information. And for me, guys, the community is my priority. I will not it's just not me. Doesn't matter. Anyway, so, and that's when you have the formation of Malaysia. 1963, the Federation of Malaysia was formed, and that's where it incorporated Singapore, Sabah, and Sarawak, known also as North Borneo. So, interesting enough, what happened, guys? And I'm going to ask you once again a historical question. What happened in 1965 in the history of Malaysia? Very, very interesting developments that took place, if you happen to know. Let me see if it has to do with another country that was there and end up leaving. Which country ended up leaving Malaysia? Let me just put it for you this way. Oh, man, F you. Greatly appreciate your super sticker and your generosity. I've noticed how many times you man's been supporting the channel. I'm very, very grateful to you for that. I want you to know I don't take it for granted. So thank you so much for your support. It means a lot to me. Oh, it was Singapore, Kazam. Kazam, you wrote Singapore kicked out. Was it? Was it Singapore kicked out? Or was it sort of convinced that its place is not there? So historians going back and forth into this. But suffice it to say that in Singapore separated from Malaysia in 1965, and it became an independent republic, as you know. Then comes the dark history of the US, and I'm going to go briefly through this one here. Then we'll continue with our conversation or analysis after this brief clip. Liking this video so far? Don't just be a watcher. Go ahead and hit the like, share, and subscribe button. And don't forget to tap the bell so you will not miss any of my videos or live streams. This way, you will be supporting a channel that stands for the truth and objective reporting. The choice is yours. Thanks for your support. Yeah, guys, please, if this is your first time, please make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and share it with others. I will be very, very grateful to you. All right, let's continue with our conversation here. The dark side of the US history in Malaysia. It's not a laughable thing. I'm not laughing out of laughing. You all know this, guys. It's because of what we have, the footprints, the dark, what's the word? The dark history that we marked Malaysia. So you look about several historical events that considered as part of the dark history of the US in Malaysia. So. And again, I'm not going to go through all of them. Suffice it to say that the US did support Britain atrocities in Malaysia, and including also the US supported Malaysian forces who were suppressing the Malaysian people. So, and why is this important? Because if you remember, during the emergency, the Malayan Emergency, for those who are familiar with this, between 1948 and 1960. Throughout all this time frame, this is where we get involved in supporting Britain and did our bad deeds behind the scenes. So the US provided aid to the British colonialists at that time, and later to the Malaysian government. Not that we care. We provided aid so the Malaysian government can suppress the sort of the communist independence rebellion at that time. But this aid was in form of atrocities that were committed. So, and you know how the British did it? With the support of the Americans? You know, because some historians describe this, that the strategy of Britain, that is, with the support of the US here, make no mistake about it, during this period, as I said, which the US supported, you know, what the British ended up doing is that they were involved in establishing new villages separate from what they weren't even there. They just established them. And those new villages essentially were concentration camps. They weren't about villages you and I understand. They were a form of concentration camps. And what was the reason for that? Is to isolate the local population suspected of supporting communists. That was their argument at that time. And the reason I'm putting this in place for you for the history is to highlight the current demonstrations in Kuala Lumpur. And again, we're not jumping to conclusions by saying, is this or that? We're not jumping into that. You read the history, you understand the history, then you use your own intellectual curiosity and you analyze it and you reach your own conclusion for that. Because if you look at throughout the history what the Brits have done with the support of the Americans, it gives you more sort of, or makes you take a step back and think about why now? Why all of a sudden demonstrations erupted? That's my point. So, of course, what the British did with the US sort of caused resentment from those who were forcibly displaced. Is no different than what we're seeing right now in Gaza. What makes us think that the Gazans is going to agree to what it is? And what even bothers me the most is that most of the world, including the pathetic Sunni Muslims, asking America to ask Israel to stop the war in Gaza. How pathetic. How pathetic. It's like America has the key. America cannot influence Israel, by the way. I'm here to tell you. Make no mistake about it. So what happened? These actions by the locals, the resentments to heightened now. One particular aspect is ethnic tensions in Malaysia. This is exactly where it leads to more of course, the US later on through the State Department is saying it has significant concerns remain regarding detentions, tortures, limitations of freedom and independence of the judiciary. So, well, yeah, look in the mirror, America. You know, we have censorship here. We have misjustice here. We have arbitrary detention. You know, come on. We have limitations on freedom. Let's call a spade and stop pretending we care for the world. You know, like China said, the US is in no possession to preach morality. As a matter of fact, I'll go even further and say, you know, it saddens me, it's my country, but I can't sugarcoat it. Is that America is no longer fit to lead the world. Straightforward. There is no ifs and buts. So, and this is why it's important to understand where those demonstrations come in. And I'm going to get into my brief analysis here, guys. You have to understand what Ibrahim said, Anwar Ibrahim, that is, when he ran for office, because he ran on ensuring that the economic conditions of Malaysians will improve and so forth. So now, excuse me, this is why he's facing now criticism over the measures that his government is trying to do. And because you're talking about taxes, for example, the government in Malaysia under Anwar Ibrahim is saying that it's aiming at boosting the government revenues. How do you do that? In any government, how do you boost the government revenues? Through taxes. The sales and service taxes. And that in itself, what is going to do? Is going to trigger higher prices for consumer goods. An average Malaysian might not be able to financially do that. This is why you have, for example, protesters, some of them arguing that these new taxes, along with high electricity tariffs imposed on large companies, would ultimately be passed on to consumers. Is exactly what we're saying here. My point into all this, why am I saying that Anwar Ibrahim now has to face the anger of the population? Because it tells you where power is. I know it came from the opposition. That's beside the point. And I'm not getting into the internal dynamics of Malaysia's domestic politics. My point in all this is that when people rise up, that's where power lies. And this is a point for my country here, because most Americans are clueless and oblivious to what is going on. I go to grocery stores and see where the prices are. I'm doing my own way into how I criticize my own government for now having inflation high. But look what they're doing in Malaysia, descending into the street. Why? Because fear is not an option. This is why the pathetic Arab world, the Sunni, is there any, except in Yemen, when the Houthis, the population in Yemen descended into the street in support of what's going on against in support of the Gazans in their man. Tell me if there was any Arab country or Muslim country, that is Sunni one to be exact. This guy here, he's ordered to arrest demonstrators in Amman for demonstrating against the starvation operations conducted by the Israelis. This guy here, the head of the Palestinian Liberation Organization, his forces in West Bank have arrested demonstrators who are fighting for their countrymen. And this guy is like Israel and the US plays him like a fiddle. So is this guy. So is the other pathetic Sunni Muslims. That's my point, why I'm sharing this. Power lies with the people, not the government. And this is why Ibrahim Anwar went ahead and announced cash assistance and increased aid to poor families and pledged to reduce fuel prices in an attempt to allay concerns about rising costs. Now, if he's doing this out of the goodness of his heart for his own people, be it. But if he's doing this because of political, because he wants to stay in power, then in my opinion, and again, I am in no position to say, because I'm not from Malaysia, it's up to the Malaysian people. All I can say is that people will have to decide, the Malaysian people will have to decide if they want him to stay in power or be removed. To me, it's a major, in effect, that people are standing up. They're not going to fear the authorities. Of course, they can use lethal force like what we see in Germany, that descending now into barbarism. The same in France, the same we saw in Canada. And even the same right here in the US with what happened in Florida with the African American who was punched by a police officer for refusing to step out of his car. That's my point. I know I have a viewer from the community shared this with us, and he said, I am a Malaysian. So I'll take the guy or the gal for whatever they say. If they say they are Malaysian, so these demonstrations, and I quote here, these demonstrations was organized by the opposition parties. Many who attended this protest are affiliated with the opposition parties, about 15 to 18,000 attended, far lower than what the opposition parties claimed, between 300 to 500,000. So he continues, or she continues. So the opposition coalition of parties, mainly from the two largest far-right racial and religious parties, their goals are not clear, but they don't provide suitable candidates to replace Anwar. They let people decide. So the economy is doing well. Do you guys think the economy of Malaysia is doing well? Please vote on the yes or no in the chat box. I will greatly appreciate it, because I'm glad this person shared, this viewer or members of the community shared with us. I welcome all this, but I also wanted to have the input of our community. In your opinion, based on what you know, is the Malaysian economy doing well? So I continue. The currency, ringgit, has strengthened against the US dollar. Against the US dollar, unemployment is the lowest in 5 years. More investments are coming in, corruption index is low, and the government is giving financial aid to the poorest. End of quote. So let me just see in the chat box if you guys agree that the economy of Malaysia is doing well. Danny Tadashi, thank you so much for your super sticker. You wrote to invite this individual. Listen, I do reach out to those people. They never responded. So I did send an email to Brian. I did send an email, an invite to Ben, through X. Carl is always comes here once a month. Jeffrey Sachs, he told me he's busy. I don't chase after people. It's just not my personality. So, and of course, they are most welcome. If they ever want it, they can respond to my email. But thank you so much for your super sticker. I just want you to know, Danny, I do reach out to people that you guys suggest, but they don't respond. I move on. Even Victor Gao, I connected with him. I sent him a request, didn't hear back yet. So life goes on. So I don't chase after people. So anyway, let's move on with our conversation here. So let me see what your answer is, guys. You said yes, no. Hong Wang, you say yes. Truth Seeker, you say yes. It is doing well. HWH, not Malaysian, I will abstain. That's a good one. So, but anyway, I just want you guys to be part of this. So suffice it to say that Ibrahim now faces this accusation of interfering into the judiciary and doubt about his commitments to anti-corruption efforts. I'll let you read between the lines. Here is the 3 key things that I found very important in my own analysis as to why this matters, why the demonstrations taking place. Doesn't matter opposition or not, is the timing. The first one has to do with, by the way, Malaysia is hosting the talks between Thailand and Cambodia. Yeah, this morning, I just read up about it. They are holding the talks between Thailand and Cambodia, and there is unconditional ceasefire at that time. So you have both the representative of Cambodia and the representative of Thailand, the acting Prime Minister, Pumtan. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce his last name, so I'm not going to butcher it. So suffice it to say is that the talks between the two parties or Southeast Asian countries hosted by Anwar were aimed at halting fighting over border dispute that has already killed at least 35 people. So, and already displayed about 270. So it looks like, in my opinion, it looks like they might reach an agreement. But here is the interesting thing about it. It was Malaysia, not the peace agreement or the ceasefire by either the US or some other country. What is important is that the ambassadors of the US and China were also present at the meeting. Makes me just wonder, first of all, why will both China and the US be present in that? Why don't you let just Malaysian handle that themselves? Because otherwise, let the other countries do it themselves. When you get too many cooks in the kitchen or too many chefs in the kitchen, you know what I mean by that. So usually many have argued that it would have been nice if China took the lead on this, not the US. Because like what the US did in DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo, and Rwanda, we facilitate that. Do you think we facilitate it because we care? No. And I'm going to do a video for you about that. No, we didn't, because we have something specific we want. I would say the same thing. So why the US is there to begin with? But suffice it to say, that was one of the key points. Second one is that China is considering linking the Indian and Pacific Oceans with a new canal. Just think about it, guys. I'm going to share a map back to show you where Malacca Strait is. Think about it. This one doesn't show where Thailand is. Let me see this one here. No, so that means I have to hold on, because I want to show you the yes, this one. No, it doesn't. I thought I could show the map for I could show the map for, yeah, right here, guys. Look where Thailand is and look where Cambodia, regarding this particular the tensions that's going on. But also look what China is planning on doing. By the way, this is just a study right now. They are talking about it, not the study in it, rather the Chinese. So, because here's the important, here is the important about this. So, the idea of the Chinese and building this particular canal that link the Indian and Pacific Ocean, this one, that means China will not have to worry anymore about the Strait of Malacca. Think about it, guys. Because if this is shut down, which, by the way, we could influence this one. The Chinese will not allow it, but we could. So Chinese are thinking ahead of that. What will happen if we build a canal that will take directly from Thailand or the seaboard here all the way to China? And this, of course, has to do with the Silk Road, if you think about it. Like I mentioned, I don't know if I mentioned this before or not. There are those in support of this, and there are those against it. Those who are disagreeing with this is saying that no. This is going to give the upper hand to the separatist movements in the southern provinces in Thailand. They're also adding that, this is going to give also the upper hand not only to those, but also to China. On the other hand, there are those who are saying, no, this will create more economic opportunities, more jobs for the local people, and of course, more commerce, trade commerce between Thailand and China. And this puts in perspective the idea of what's going on in Malaysia. That's my point into all this. So, because the supporters of this particular project saying that Thailand, one of the largest transport hub if this canal is built. So, I don't know. We'll see how it goes. And the last point is, could this turmoil has to do with Anwar Ibrahim's speech recent, the last summit of BRICS, where he criticized the collective West about Gaza. So, and speaking of Gaza, which is very pathetic. When I was in Holland, I went to the IGC headquarters where the court is. You guys saw that I did a short video from there. Here is what I found very, very interesting and troubling, is that the ICJ, the International Court of Justice, rather, is still postponing its ruling on the genocide in Gaza. They're not. After all what is happening, they still, we are still debating whether there is genocide, whether there is mass starvation. How pathetic. So while the increasing number of Palestinians in Gaza are dying daily from starvation, they are not dying now from bombs or drones or whatever, from starvation. So this is why you have some legal scholars now are kind of questioning, are you still debating whether there is a massive starvation in Gaza or not? So some legal experts, this is what concerns me the most. And by the way, I have someone in mind who is an international lawyer. I'm going to reach out to him and see if he has time to come on the channel, and we will have a conversation with him. Someone I've known for years. I trust his judgment, and he is an international lawyer. So here is what my concern. Those legal experts now, believing that it is unlikely that the ICJ will rule about the Israelis committing genocide in Gaza before the end of 2027. This is what's disturbing. After all, what I'm sure you saw, as I told you last time, guys, I have a hard time sharing the images. I just have a hard time. So. And of course, it goes without saying about the pathetic Sunni Muslims like these guys: Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Bahrain, Kuwait, United Arab Emirates, Egypt. I don't know about Tunisia. Tunisia did one thing interesting, that the U.S. envoy to Tunisia wanted to meet the president there. And you know what the president of Tunisia did? He showed him the pictures of starving children in Gaza. That's how he welcomed him into Tunisia. To the point. I don't know about Morocco. I don't know. Egypt is pathetic anyway. Even this guy here, the head of the PLO, the Palestinian Liberation Army, I never trusted the guy anyway. So it shows you right there that if they're still debating, there is no mass starvation in Gaza, that tells you where the story is. So anyway, guys, that's all I have to share with you on this particular front here. Just to remind you, for tomorrow, I will be addressing a very major development regarding this aspect, regarding Iran. And on Thursday, or on the 30th, rather, I will be having my conversation with Anna Melendog regarding what's going on in the Philippines. So here is the one I'm going to be talking to you about tomorrow. So don't miss the live stream tomorrow, because it has a very major implications to what's going on from a security perspective. We're talking about global security here. So once again, let me go back to say thank you to the super stickers here. Noel, once again, much appreciate your support. FU, greatly appreciate your continued support for the channel. And Danny, many thanks for your super sticker. Greatly appreciate it. To those who wants to support the channel, guys, I'm going to put the link for my upcoming trip to Asia if you want to support this, which I will greatly appreciate if you do, because I only have about 3 weeks left. So if you truly want to support my upcoming Asia trip, I will be very grateful to you for that. Here is the link for it. So far, we are about, I think, let me share the, I want to show you where we are on the, right here. This is where we are. I think we are about 43% now. I didn't update it as of yesterday. So as of 2 days ago. So I will update it later on. So I will greatly appreciate if you could support my upcoming Asia trip. And if you want to support the channel, here is the link for it. I'm going to put it for you in the chat box, should you decide to do that. I thank a supporter who supported the channel through PayPal. I'm very grateful to that. Let me see if I still can see it here, if it is still here. No, it's not here. Oh yeah, it is. Danny, thank you very much, Danny. Truly appreciate your support through PayPal. I'm very grateful to you for that. So, and the last thing is I want to share with you the link to my speaking engagement here, guys. This is where I do some speaking events. If you are interested, or your entity is interested in having a speaker to address this particular geopolitical issues, I'll be happy to do it. So anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this and this brief analysis, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow for very, very interesting topic about Iran ICBMs. As always, remember, geopolitics impact your daily life in more ways than one. Till next time, guys. Bye-bye.